Welcome back to the Canada Cup here from snowy Halifax, Nova Scotia. I am JP Angelopoulos, your host this evening, afternoon, morning, whenever you're listening to us. Lots of snow today, but myself, Ben, and John all made our way into studio here to recap the weekend that was for Liverpool FC. Boys, how you guys doing today? Shovel yourselves out?
You know what? Speaking of the weekend, JP, I watched the halftime show as sponsored by Pepsi. I'm surprised that a Pepsi halftime show had so many songs that were quite clearly about Coke.
Yeah.
Ben, did you get to enjoy win some money this weekend or what?
Well, I did win some money, but I wasn't enjoying it as a forever Tom Brady hater. Seeing him get number 7 wasn't particularly enjoyable, and then I got to wake up to 40 centimeters of snow and getting to clear off my car. So
when it just piles on, we go from a Brady win to 40, 50 centimeters of snow, all immediately after a Manchester City win over Liverpool, which we will get to shortly because that was a somewhat depressing afternoon for us here in Halifax. And even before that, we had the Brighton game, which we'll touch base on as well. But we'll try to have some fun here today, guys. We got lots to get to. Some not transfer talk in there. Or wait, we can talk about the guys we brought in. Because,
the lack of playing, yeah.
Hopefully now, and I'll get to that a little later. That's one of my thoughts that we should be getting into. We'll get to a couple of those new players. Thoughts maybe on if Genie's drive-by Snapchatting are legit or not. That'll be always interesting. And set up our Leicester game that we coming up on Saturday morning. So we got a fair bit to get to. So let's start it off right where it all kind of. Can I say it all fall apart, or has it been falling apart for a fair bit here?
I think it's been falling apart, and then we had 2 games where we got to renew hope, and then it went right back to falling apart again. Yeah,
a significant tease, I guess, that weekend that Spurs and West Ham, some 2 solid wins, and then we followed up with a 1-0 loss to Brighton, and then a 4-1 loss to City. So I don't know, guys. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of positives out of that Brighton match. To quote Mourinho saying the better team lost, I have a hard time kind of thinking that. I don't really think Liverpool deserved that game. John, what do you think, man?
It was rough to watch. You do sort of a midweek watch, and you're hoping for something good out of it, and it was just kind of a fairly uninspired performance. And I think we were all pretty bullish about that game after the previous 2 performances from Liverpool. I was definitely saying we've got a chance to really maybe not retain the title, but certainly storm back up the table. And it just wasn't to be. It was a return to some of the problems that we had, and honestly just a comedy of errors that goal ended up coming to. I don't know who to blame more, the defense, the goalkeeping. Quevin Kelleher was not in a good position for it. Phillips should have cleared it. It was just an ugly performance, and just the exact kind of goal that we almost deserved.
I can totally agree with you on that, because it started right from the left side where Robbo and Firmino were kind of hesitating who would push on to whoever put the cross in, and then the cross went right over Trent's head, and it got headed back by the giant that is, what was that guy's name? Berg, I think? Or Byrne, maybe? I don't know. Headed it back in, and then, Phillips made a mess of the clearing. Kelleher looked a little fumbly, not sure-footed, and wasn't able to get his hand up. It took a little deflection. But, with 1 shot on target, 11 attempts, and Brighton had 2 on target with 13 attempts, we had very little attack in there, Ben. And, can you give us any positives out of that game?
I think, interestingly, the one positive that I saw was Quevin Kelleher, despite, him being out of position there, potentially leading to a goal. You could argue both ways on that, but I thought he had a pretty good game himself. Trent Alexander-Arnold had, I think, a pretty typical Trent Alexander-Arnold game, unfortunately. He had that one cross to Salah, which went wide, and I think that was probably the only time during that match against Brighton that we had a real chance on goal. But I thought Kelleher played well under the circumstances, and can't really blame that result on him, because rightfully we should have won 3-4-1 or something. So
rightfully, I don't know if we can say that anymore.
yeah, you're probably right. But no, that'd probably be the one bright spot for me. And then unfortunately things got a little bit worse 3 days later.
Yeah, we go from 68 straight wins and draws at Anfield to 2 straight losses.
3 straight losses.
Well,
now.
sorry, 2 losses from that game, and then City being the third one, which was just, I got to say, we were watching this in the pub, and the first half had some signs of life. That Gundogan shank of a penalty was a nice, oh, crap, he shanked it. All right, so that's fate. The City just can't take penalties against Liverpool. Ederson's going to have to start taking them now. And I thought that was a sign that, hey, things are going to go our way there. And overall, I was feeling relatively good the first half. I thought there was something coming. But then it just fell apart, John, you weren't at the pub there, and I couldn't text you because I was, busy drinking and wallowing in some self-pity there. What did you see from your end?
I mean, definitely that's the kind of game that I really miss because, as you guys know, as most of our listeners probably know, I haven't been going to the pub since the beginning of the pandemic, and I miss it every time. But it's moments like that I miss it especially. Not being able to be around anybody and just watching it sort of by myself at home. As you guys know, I'm the one who tries to find the silver lining. It's a dark fucking storm cloud. I'm looking for that silver lining there. There is a couple of things to note. During that game, Alisson made more errors than he made the entirety of last season, which I think is just
That's a silver lining?
Yeah, because I think it is a proving point that, this is form, and form is temporary. Alisson is a classy player, and I think Klopp said it himself. He's saved our lives many, many times before, and he will bounce back. The other sort of silver lining that I took away from this game is, this is in some ways, just sort of stay with me on this one. In some ways, this takes some of the pressure off. This is not going to be a season where we're able to repeat the Premier League title. Now, technically speaking, mathematically, it is possible. But the pressure is not there to repeat the Premier League. The pressure is not there to perform at that level. And frankly, without crowds, without Anfield, as Anfield actually is, it's not going to happen this year. That's fine. We can focus on the future now. We can focus on what next season looks like. We can focus on making sure that we make it into Europe for next season. I think what this game showed us more than anything else is okay, the two center midfielders at center back experiment is done. At most, I want one of them in there. I would prefer, honestly, I was saying on our ride over, JP, I say throw Davies and Kabak into midfield, or into defense rather, as soon as possible, and get our midfielders back into midfield. Because honestly, I would rather us lose games. I'd rather us ship goals to the benefit of actually trying to score goals rather than just losing these games by 1 or 2 goals here and there, or obviously the disappointment of City aside. It's just we got to start playing like we actually want to play, like we actually want to win games.
Well, and I know where you're coming from, and funny enough, I definitely agree with you on what the first thing you said, how the Premier League now is all and done. Like, we're not going to win it. There was that faint hope, hey, we beat City, we're back in it. Now it's pretty much a long-lost dream, and Klopp can now say, we got to focus on just getting this team playing better, no more just winning for the game. And I'm almost of the mind to throw Kabak and Davies in there together and put Fabinho and Hendo right in there. Now, again, I'm not the manager. I don't know how they're doing in training, but I wouldn't be opposed to that option if that's the case. Again, if we had them at the beginning of January, we might have had them ready for the City game. So, I don't know, Ben, the Premier League's gone for you, is it?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think the Premier League's guaranteed to go to Man City, but it's certainly guaranteed not to go to Liverpool, I think, at this point. I mean, you never know. Man United might be able to give them a run. We'll see, but that aside. No, I think the game the game was depressing for a couple of reasons. Certainly, John, what your point about the midfielder and center back experiment. I mean, Henderson and Fabinho had no answer for Phil Foden. No answer whatsoever. And City were just so lethal on the counterattack. It was like they had 7 shots, 5 on target. 4 of them were goals. Like they were just absolutely just precise. And I think Liverpool showed up to that game in a way that they didn't show up against Brighton, but it was still just not. They weren't even in the same league as Man City, and I think that was the biggest takeaway for me was just City. Just they're at a different level. And we just can't come close to them. Last year, obviously a huge different story, but this year they're just miles ahead of us, and that's the reality of it.
So here's the question then. Liverpool's form last season versus City yesterday. Who do you got?
Oh, man, that would have been a game.
That's what I mean.
As a neutral, yeah.
I think this Liverpool team still has all the parts, all the people, all the personnel, but there's something wrong either in the dressing room, the strategy. The teams know how to defend Klopp now, which I'm going to bring up a little later. Maybe maybe they are just taxed, and it's hard to keep up this form for this long. Yeah. And I know you could say, oh, they won one Premier League and one Champions League, but you know what? Over the past 3 seasons, from like 2017 on, I pulled some stats earlier today, and just offhand, I didn't send this to these guys earlier today, just so you know. I do send you guys some prep work for beforehand, but from 2017 to today, Premier League only. What do you think the point difference would be between City and Liverpool? And that's with City's century season, Liverpool finishing 4th. Do you think it's like
a
couple points?
The combined?
Yeah. The whole records from there, it's probably kind of hard to calculate it all.
Yeah, but I would say City's comfortably ahead. I'd say maybe 7 or 9 points ahead.
No, that's only 3 wins.
Still, to me,
I wouldn't consider 3 wins over 3 seasons a comfortable lead.
Fair enough.
It's actually like 6 wins. They're 18 points ahead. Yeah. And that includes 14 losses for Liverpool to City's 17. Although Liverpool has 29 draws in there, which is really
that's kind of been our problem over the last few years. Come to a point now where we've come to expect a certain level of performance from Liverpool, and we are in sort of a blip where things have kind of regressed to a mean that we're not necessarily used to after the last few seasons. Worth saying that Klopp has actually set a record for the Premier League. He's 205 games without back-to-back losses for the first time ever. The last coach to have a streak of any length, Jose Mourinho, at 76.
Ooh. That was just home defeats, though, right?
I think it's
back-to-back
defeats.
Okay, fair enough.
I think.
I think that's right. Yeah,
I don't know. It
makes sense.
Feels like it's possible anyhow.
Well, if you pull that stat I just told you guys, we've lost Liverpool since 2017 have lost 14 games. I don't think many of those. And that includes the last 3 losses.
Yeah.
So that's 11 losses basically in 3 years, and I'd be surprised if many of those were back to back.
Yeah, I think this season in particular, and I know it's been said 1,000 times, but this is such a bizarre season for so many different reasons that I don't want to say it's indicative of what the future holds, but you got to expect that if you have a packed Anfield and one of Gomez or Van Dijk is healthy, maybe. Quite possibly, City would still be ahead of us, but probably wouldn't be by a prospective 13 points.
Well, I think, and I think that there would be. I think we would have a different sort of feeling around the club right now if we had actually got to celebrate our first title in 30 years. We didn't really get that opportunity. As a club, there wasn't a parade, there wasn't a party, there wasn't anything, with the exception of some of the socially distanced, not quite properly socially distanced, celebrations that happened in the Liverpool City Centre,
or the occasional fireworks you fire off at the 47th minute of a game randomly.
Cursed us.
Yeah, bit of a turning point there.
Yeah, actually, it's funny, John. You mentioned the party there. And Klopp said, when it's safe, we'll have a celebration. Right now, I mean, if COVID's gone, it's hey, we can have a parade. Who wants a parade night now to say, hey, we won the league last year, but we're shit in the bed now?
Okay, can I offer a bit of a silver lining to you guys?
There's more silver lining.
But here's a huge one.
Start tomorrow.
All right, hear me out on this. The Europa League. The Europa League is probably the best competition. How many times have you guys...
Side note, I've heard this argument several times in the pub, so go ahead.
There is one part of it that I like.
How many people enjoy getting drunk on a Tuesday night?
I can enjoy it for the right reasons.
But compare that to drinking and watching, some footy on a Thursday.
Wow, I never thought of it that way.
Think about it. If you're a little bit worse for wear Friday, no big deal. If you're a little worse for wear on Wednesday, a little worse. Not also to mention the geography lessons that we're all going to get. How well do you know teams from Azerbaijan? But we're going to learn a lot. And so all our minds are going to expand because of that. We're at the Champions League. Oh, look, we're playing Real Madrid again. Give me some Feyenoord. Give me some Tel Aviv.